Good evening. At 6 p.m., it's time to convene the regular meeting of the Sampson County Board of Commissioners for October 3rd, 2022. At this time, I'll turn the meeting over to Vice Chair Kivett.
And at this time, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Godwin for invocation.
All right, let us pray. Our Father and our God, we thank you for this wonderful and blessed day. Thank you for who you are and keeping us in this county. We pray for that wisdom, that knowledge, and Lord, we ask as we bless this meeting, thank you for what we do, but thank you for those that's here tonight and the concerns. We pray, Lord, that everything goes well because of you. Now, Father, as we have this meeting, we give you the glory, we give you the honor. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And looking at the agenda, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as published?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? It shows unanimous. At this time, we're going to have the direction for the staff related to the resolution for employment compensation items. Each of us, from the day we took our oaths as county commissioners, have accepted our responsibility to ensure our employees are supported and compensated fairly and equitably. Moreover, we have accepted our responsibility to comply with the fiscal policies of state law and our obligation to our taxpayers to use their tax dollars in a prudent manner that allows us to provide programs and services, either mandated or needed by our citizens, while at the same time limiting our tax rate so as to encourage the investment of industry here in Sampson County. That guarantees that our decisions may be difficult and unpopular at times. As we seek to do the right thing on the employee compensation matters at hand, we ask the county manager to develop options for consideration at our November meeting that to the greatest extent possible achieve the following. 3 items here. Number 1, improves the county's ability to recruit employees, particularly for the most critical positions in public safety. Examples, law enforcement, emergency services, and telecommunicators, and human services, DSS, and health department. 2, maintain equity in our pay classification system to avoid unintended consequences when one classification of employees receives consideration and others are not included. Number 3, remains mindful of the impact that any recommendation to current and future budgets so that the impact to our taxpayers is mitigated. Okay, here we go to our public hearings. Mr. Barrington and Mr. Starling.
Joel, did you want to start or make this? Okay, very good. There are really just a couple of things wanted to highlight for you. First and foremost, thank you for allowing us to provide due diligence on the property at Newton Grove. Upon completion of those due diligence, there have been no red flags, environmental red flags that would prevent us from developing that site itself. That's the first. And really the second thing is, and this is really the source would really be based on Clinton's Industrial Park and the project inquiries we receive. We do project that this development, upon full development and occupancy, would really yield an increase to the county's tax base of around $50 million and 400 to 500 new jobs. And so that's all I have.
Yeah, and just to recap, this is an option agreement that the board approved at its April 4th regular meeting. You have until October the 31st to exercise that option. Because this is an economic development expenditure, we're required by statute to have a public hearing, and this has been noticed for public hearing for this meeting.
Do we have anyone else that wishes to make a comment in the public hearing?
No one signed up, ma'am.
If not, I'll close. And at this time, I suggest that we table this and come back maybe later on in October and make our final decision, make our final vote on that.
Yeah, the option period expires on October 31st, so you just need to make sure you.
Check your calendars and see if you're available maybe the 19th or the 20th, maybe the 20th at 1 Does anybody have anything that day? You're good? You're good?
What time?
Oh, 1 o'clock on the 20th. Hold on, Commissioner Godwin might have an issue here.
That's the 19th, yeah.
What about the 20th? Oh, that way. Okay, let's regroup. Commissioner Godwin's gonna be out of town all that week.
26, 27.
Next week.
The next week.
Yeah, the next week I'm good.
Okay, bear with us.
27th.
What about the 25th?
It's till the 31st.
Commissioner Wooten, 25th?
Let's see about that. At 1?
That'll work for me. Is that good? Okay, we'll set the meeting for the 25th. It's on a Tuesday at 1 PM.
And you're in which facility, here or over there?
I think over in the administrative building. Okay. Let's move on to the consideration of this Clinton Sampson Airport. Attorney Starling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This begins at page 22 of your agenda materials. We have been in negotiations for several months now with Morals Aerial Applicators LLC and Michael Rivenbark. They're a crop duster aerial applicator. They currently have a facility at the airport. Mr. Rivenbark is wanting to construct an 80-foot by 80-foot hangar building on property. The city and the county jointly own the airport together. He's wanting to construct that on county and city property at his expense. We have received authorization to do a 30-year lease for that property. You have before you that proposed lease agreement. The rent is stated in there. It's on a escalating scale. It's $2,000 a year, $3,000 for the first 10 years, $3,000 for the third decade, and $4,000 a year for the final decade. But also bear in mind that the tenant is paying for the building to be built, and when the lease expires, the building is ours. So that's the basis for the rent there. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
He'll also pay taxes.
He will pay the rent. An initial draft of the lease agreement required that he pay what he doesn't own the land, the county and the city do, so he won't actually get a tax bill. We initially had the lease drafted in such a way that he would pay what he would otherwise pay in taxes. They wanted a definite amount, and that's why we have the definite figure that we have in the current
And for
lease.
his airplane, he will pay taxes on that, right?
Any airplane that is listed here, he will pay taxes on. The FAA has told us they do not allow airports to require that tenants list their aircraft at that airport to enter into lease agreements. So we would not be able to require that, but my understanding is that he does list business personal property in the county currently.
Any questions? I move that we adopt the resolution authorizing lease of the real property. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? That is unanimous. Mr. Lynn Reynolds, would you come forward?
Last week, the architect ADW opened up bids for the new warehouse that's going to be shared between Sheriff's Department and Emergency Management, and the bids came under the projected budget. And the architects and Public Works recommend that we extend the size of the building to use the funding that we have. And the building would go from a 150 by 75 to a 150 by 90 and still stay within budget. So that's our recommendation, to go with a 150 by 90 building.
Now, why did we increase it? Repeat that for me. Why did we increase the size?
The budget came in under, and it's all a grant. And we had a line item where we can extend the size of the building to match the money.
Okay.
So
And we're still gonna have some leftover funds. Do we know how we can use the leftover funds?
if we have any at the end, we have some contingency money in there. We can use it for whatever we want in the building.
Building.
Yes.
Questions?
No, I move we, award the bid for construction for the storage building as recommended.
All in favor?
And that's for a 150 by 90, right?
Yes.
And that's $2.415 million.
Joel, do they need to state the low bidder for the record?
Yes, Madam Assistant County Manager, that is Jackson Builders Incorporated out of Goldsboro, North Carolina.
Yeah, excuse me. They were a little bit.
Okay, and now let's go on to the water area. Mr. Reynolds and David Ross.
Guess I'll start off on this one. So I'm here to present the recommendation letter of award for elevated storage tanks. I think I provided that later on. Susan passed it out. The elevated storage tank project that y'all are probably aware of is to construct 2 elevated storage tanks that will hold 125,000 gallons of water. One's located at Spivey's Corner. The other one is at the west side of Roseboro. The project would include site pipe and demolition, clearing, electrical, metering vaults, and valve vaults. The purpose of the project would be to increase the pressure throughout the system, as well as increase the total storage of water to meet public water supplies requirements, which is half average day demand. So I guess 3 bids were received for the elevated storage tanks project on September 22nd, following a re-advertisement, which I informed y'all about at the last meeting, where only 2 bids were received on September 8th. The 3 bidders that are listed in the recognition letter include Caldwell Tanks, McGuire Iron, and Phoenix Fabricators and Erectors. After we reviewed and put together the bid tabulation, which is on the last page of y'all's document, Caldwell Tanks became the apparent low bidder with a bid of $5,025,100. This project is considered a system improvement project and will be completely funded through the American Rescue Plan funding. So right now, Dewberry recommends the board in the form of a motion award the contract to Caldwell Tanks as the apparent low responsive bidder based on the total base bid price.
Questions? Have a motion?
I make a motion we accept the bid of $5,025,000.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Kibbit.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to move that we appoint for the Workforce Development Board, Roseboro Mayor Alice Butler. All in favor? Raise your hand.
Second. Second.
You got it? All right.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Okay, I review the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept it as published?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, now we're going down to our county manager, board information and your county manager report.
Chairman, Chair Lee, we had a very nice event Tuesday of last week down in Ivanhoe to celebrate the Ivanhoe project, in which we have gotten $13,283,000, and that was a wonderful thing. There was a large crowd down there, and I was extremely impressed with the enthusiasm and the interest of those people in the water system for that area. I do note that several of the commissioners were there in attendance, and I think y'all can attest to it. When we initially went down, I thought I was going to be on the program 2 times, and the second time that I was going to be on the program, I was going to comment on some of our people, the resources. We certainly do not want to discount anybody that has advocated for that project, but certainly Matt West and David Ross need to get a lot of credit for developing that application and working with us, and I apologize for not getting them recognition on that day. The other person that worked with us very diligently is Mr. Lynn Reynolds, who, I would tell you, with the work that he has done on all that we've done, he has saved us countless dollars and increased our efficiency, because I think he has single-handedly probably ridden every road in the county and probably counted every house himself. So he has got a bankroll of knowledge that if I live to be 100, I won't have on where people live in Sampson County. Don't want to discount anybody that has participated, but one of the things I was thinking about as I was sitting there is Ms. Letha Lee. Not only has she been an advocate for her community for the 2 years that she's been on the board, Ms. Lee, you have been an advocate for your community for as long as I've been a county manager, I think, okay? I know I can take us back 10 years, and I'm inclined to think I can go back to 2010. I have had at least one discussion with her on an annual basis of the needs in her community. If she didn't do anything but call me to say, don't forget Harold's and Ivanhoe and our area of the county. So I do think it's important that we celebrate all of the positives that we have and the people that have participated. Ms. Lee, I thank you very much for all that you have done.
Thank you. I do too. Thank you. It's impressive. Anything else in your report?
No, ma'am.
Okay. At this point, we'll move on to the public comment period. Mrs. Holder, would you remind us of the guidelines we have?
Certainly. Per the board's policy, the board sets time limits for the public comment period, which we hold each meeting by law, by each regular meeting by law. There is a time limit of 3 minutes. The light will turn green as you begin speaking. When you have 1 minute remaining, the light on the podium will turn yellow. When your time is complete, the light will turn red and a nice sweet chime will ring. That means you should quickly conclude your comments and let us allow the next person to speak. When you come to the podium, you should state your name and address for the record. We will do those who signed up first, and then those who may not have had the opportunity to sign up before we started, the floor will be open for them to raise their hand and be acknowledged by the chairperson. You may not yield your time to another person. Comments are limited to those appropriate for open meetings, and speakers should remain courteous in those comments. The public comment period is a forum for the board to listen. Speakers should not expect the board to answer impromptu questions.
Thank you. Okay, our first speaker will be Bob McKenzie.
I just want to talk about funding the sheriff's department.
Have you state your name and address for the record, please?
It's Robert McKenzie, 35 Oak Hill Drive, in Dunn, North Carolina, but I live in Spivey's Corner. Just hope and pray, because the sheriff's department don't have enough backup. If one of them happens to be killed and one of you goes to the wake and the sheriff's department officers turn their back on you, that's showing they do not respect you, because they didn't have backup. You will be just as guilty as whoever pulled that trigger or however they were killed. You would have the blood of those officers on your hands. We were just lucky that the young lady was not only shot in the legs, and that's about all I've got to say. I've seen your, in other places. I lived in Washington, D.C., and I saw how the police department went down, the criminals took over, and you can bet these criminals are talking among themselves about having only 4 officers on duty at night. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Your comments. Jackie Cashwell?
My name is Jackie Cashwell. I live at 470 Bucktown Road, and I would also like to talk about funding the sheriff's department. I know we have 33 officers that work for the Clinton Police Department, about 8 square miles. A little over 900 officers for the rural community of over 900 square miles. and they're all divided out, so we're left with really nothing to protect us. We need them to be our first responders because they are the first responders, and they don't just arrest bad people, they save lives. And the pay scale needs to be even. So whatever needs to happen, my taxpayer dollars need to be even and not just one way or the other. I think you mentioned equality in pay, and I'd like to see that happen and more officers hired to protect the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Brenda Blakely?
I'm Brenda Blakely. I also live at 470 Bucktown Road. My father is also, he was an advocate for the county sheriff's department, and he's no longer with us, and I'm gonna take up his stance. And I actually called one of the board members a couple weeks ago and spoke with him, and I was told there was no funding for the sheriff's department, and I'm not sure, you said something about we have to raise taxes. Well, whatever we have to do, because we don't feel safe. And we see it in the news all the time. I'm watching, it pops up on my phone, things happening in Clinton, things are happening out in the county. We don't have enough sheriffs, and it's just not acceptable. We don't feel safe. And I was born and raised here, and we don't feel, and we need our officers to be supported in every way. Thank you.
Wayne High?
Good evening. My name is Wayne High. I live at 1235 Timberlake. And not to break the trend, I'm going to talk about the Sheriff's Department also. Over the last months, we've had considerable discussions, and everything related to wages and salaries has been in percentages. In my 42 years of building budgets, percentages didn't mean a whole lot. So in order to add some clarity, I went back to the year prior to the Great Pay Plan, and I picked randomly 7 departments within the county, and I looked at the department heads and above. Interesting enough, 3 of those people have received increases in excess of $45,000, 1 in excess of $40,000, 1 in excess of $25,000, 1 in excess of $18,000. Keep in mind, some of those departments didn't even exist prior to the pay plan. Then I slipped over to the Sheriff's Department, and a starting Deputy 1 over that time period received an increase of $4 short of $10,000. Ladies and gentlemen, if that's equity, I got a problem. I think we need to look at where are our tax dollars really going. We bought a lot of land, we didn't have any trouble doing that, but yet we don't have enough money to fund the Sheriff's Department. Thank you for your time.
For your comments. Eddie Waters?
I'm Eddie Waters, 306 Royal Road. I can tell you firsthand what the first gentleman spoke about. If we are talking about the shortage of deputies and equipment and funding, there's other people that's talking about it. It got so bad in the area that I lived in, my wife and I had to sell our house, and we have recently moved. I can see the effect that it's having on the deputies, and it is pitiful that our deputies feel like they do. I had a deputy tell me that if I didn't like where I lived, to move. And it got bad enough that I didn't want to leave my wife at home to go to work because I was afraid I'd come home and she would be shot. I've heard bullets going through the trees in my yard. I've had people riding dirt bikes up to my front door. And I'm gonna tell everybody, I think it's a crying shame that that man back there has got to beg for help to protect Sampson County. I think we need to do whatever it takes to take care of the Sheriff Department so they can take care of us. Thank you.
Thank you for comments. Reed Maddox?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to repeat.
Could you state your name and address?
Oh, yes, Reed Maddox, 305 Pineview Road, Clinton. I'm not going to repeat what has been touched on. What I am going to comment on is 2 extra things I don't have enough time to go through all the numbers. I've been in emergency services, volunteered and paid for 20 years. I've never had a failure to be able to fund my department. Also, I want Deputy Caitlin Emanuel's incident to be a wake-up call to everyone. What happened to her that night, a gunshot wound that should have been fatal, is a divine intervention that there was a deputy close enough to her to render medical aid, save her life, and get her definitive care. You got these men and women spread out, they don't have backup. If they get shot, it's over. And whose feet does that land at? The people that fund them. Jimmy Thornton should not have to beg to protect his deputies. We're not safe, and our deputies are not safe. You can't have a government, you can't have commerce, you can't have agriculture without safety. You can't even have safe schools. So when you look at a $170 million budget, and yes, he does get $14 million, but if he needs more, you find it. It's that simple. You find, and I understand money here, money there, but it's priorities. Because like I said, without safety, nothing else happens. You lose everything without safety. And right now, Sampson County is experiencing a monumental crime spike. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Wendy Taylor?
Wendy Taylor, 2556 Greensbridge Road, Garland, North Carolina. I stand before you today as a taxpaying citizen, friend to some, and current Sampson County Republican Party Secretary. It's unfortunate for those of us who've been unwillingly placed in the position of choosing between our sheriff and our Republican commissioners. Let me be clear, I stand behind our sheriff. Support for law enforcement is one of the many reasons that I've been a lifelong Republican, and it's also the reason that I'm embarrassed to be standing here pleading for adequate funding from a Republican-controlled board. As I watched Ms. Holder's September the 21st 90-plus page presentation, I learned that she spent a lot of time monitoring the sheriff's social media page, and her rebuttal was geared towards fact-checking his claims. I did find it awfully convenient that this workshop was held in the middle of the day when most people are working, and in such a way that the public wasn't allowed to ask questions, and none of the information she presented as fact could be refuted. Also, during the same segment, I learned that Mr. Causey had 30-plus years of government experience, which immediately helped me identify our county's problem. Never once has a lifelong bureaucrat solved a problem or made the lives of the people they were hired to serve better. Mr. Causey has reigned supremely in Sampson County for years now, aided and abetted by Clark Wooten. While we the people can't fire Mr. Causey, District 1 certainly fired Mr. Wooten. His constituents spoke loud and clear despite tens of thousands of dollars spent, an expensive appearance by Laura Trump, and Chairwoman Sue Lee's warm and fuzzy endorsement. I honestly thought our board would take that as a sign that we were fed up with the direction the Causey-Wooten duo was taking our county. Yet, here you all sit continuing to allow the county manager to take you down the same political suicide path in which he led Clark Wooten. Our sheriff is elected, so if we thought he wasn't doing his job, we'd fire him too. This sheriff doesn't answer to the county manager, and I commend him for that. I don't want a sheriff that answers to a bureaucrat, regardless of their political affiliation. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. In conclusion, Mr. Boykin and Ms. Lee, I don't expect pushback from the county manager for you two, considering your party's stance on defunding the police. That doesn't mean that your inaction is excusable. Mr. Wooten, there's no point in addressing you because you're on the way out, and I doubt anyone will miss your ego or your toddler-like temper tantrums. Chairwoman Lee, you're on the wrong side of history on this one. Your alignment with Mr. Wooten and Mr. Causey will be your downfall in the next election. The people will not forget your lack of action and leadership during this crisis. We also won't forget your social media misinformation campaign from the comforts of your home in a low-crime area protected fully by the fully funded Clinton City Police. Mr. Kivett, I know you've worked with the sheriff many times, helping him in ways other commissioners refuse to, and it's not fair that you get lumped in with the other four. That must be frustrating for you, and as your friend and as a person who has a great deal of respect for you, I hope you'll eventually decide to take a stand for what's right, because I truly believe you want to fix the problem. It takes courage to be the long dissenting voice, and I hope you find the courage to do that soon. Sampson County needs your leadership now more than ever. You two are going to have to pick the side, just like the rest of us, the county manager or the sheriff, because you can't support both in this. And we need experienced deputies far more than we need an experienced county manager.
Please maintain decorum. Bob Graysick, would you come forward, please?
My name is Bob Graysick. I live in 2556 Greensbridge Road in Parkersburg, North Carolina. Since January 1st, Sampson County, I'm not saying that just the sheriff's department, I'm talking about the entire county, has lost 17 law enforcement officers from the sheriff's department, including detention. 17. I'm glad the number one priority now of the commissioners is to get the county manager to do something about it. We lost 17 officers that had knowledge, skills, and abilities that would save us. All of them had training before they became a sheriff. Some retired, but some went for different pay. Matter of fact, the average pay for sheriff's deputies or police officers around the area is actually $42,446. Oh, this can't be refuted. This is the fact. The detention officer's starting salary is $38,864, and that's all without experience. Sampson County law enforcement starting salary is $38,160 for a law enforcement officer. The starting salary for a detention officer is $32,892. Why did we lose a deputy today to another county? Today, why did we lose another one? Sampson County isn't a county without the sheriff's department. Why do you divide a line between the sheriff's department and the rest of the county? It's all one. We don't have a county without law enforcement. Leaders lead. Step up to the plate and lead us through to some resolution to get law enforcement officers out on the beat where they need to be, in vehicles. I mean, how many law enforcement officers did we have for the hurricane or the bad rains that we got? I don't think any overtime was authorized. Leaders lead. Thank you for your time.
Ken David?
Yes, I'm Ken Davis, 101 King Road. The first thing I would like to say, every morning, and to all the people, I know I can't ask questions, but every morning when a deputy puts his uniform on, he walks there, tells his wife and his little children, whatever, goodbye. That might be the last goodbye. Because when he gets out and he calls for backup, and there's no backup, and somebody puts a bullet in him, what? There's no excuse for this. I think Mr. Jimmy needs funding 100%. Each and every one of us has family. I'm sure y'all do. If you don't, I'm sorry you don't. But I'm sure everybody in this here is represented by a family. And we need to wake up. Because at night, when we're sitting home watching TV, drinking a drink in our recliner, and our big fancy TV, them deputies are out there at the mercy of the world. Because when the sun goes down here in Sampson County, it's a damn disgusting rat race. Drugs, crime, and everything. And I hope everybody stands up. And I think the county commissioners need to wake up. And we would like to see y'all support and fund the Sheriff's Department 100%. Thank you.
Bonnie Bruce.
Hello, I'm Bonnie Bruce. I live at 960 West Darden Road, Clinton. I've lived here, I'm from Raleigh. I lived in Wake County. I moved down here to get away from Raleigh anyway, but I became immediately impressed with Sheriff Jimmy Thornton, who I only just met tonight. But I want you to understand that I felt his presence. I felt his dedication. I've had occasion to meet some of his deputies, some of the finest people I've ever met. I read over that 95-page report, and I was very impressed with the detail, the analysis, and the effort. But my biggest question that I came away from it is your priorities. I appreciate that you want to build a new, I think, facility, new football facility at Lakewood High School. You can spend $250,000 there, but you can't fund some more deputies. We've got the biggest county, I believe, in North Carolina. That's a big obstacle right there. You should have more deputies here than just about anywhere. I know we don't have as many people, which is one of the things that I find appealing, but they've got a lot of ground to cover. And the times have changed, y'all. You've got to wake up. We live in a different world than we did 2-3 years ago. There are more criminals on the walking free, and these judges letting them out and turning around that 80-year-old grandmother getting killed up in Person County by a violent felon who had just been let go. I don't know who's lost their minds, but y'all get y'all's back and get your priorities in right order. We have got to have more deputies, period. Okay? You just have to wrap your heads around that. And you are all very inventive people, and you're all smart to have figured all the details. I worked in government. I know how documentation and the tedious cross the T's and dot the I's, y'all have got all that down pat. You just have to squeeze some money out from somewhere. I believe I heard you say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, y'all are gonna let somebody build a hangar on county property and charge them $2,000 a year for rent? And after 40 years or whatever, they're gonna have paid us $90,000 and we're gonna own a 40-year-old building? Y'all gotta think better than that now. I mean, you could get more money out of him. He's gonna be making more than that. I mean, come on now, squeeze some out of that and get some deputies in here. I'll help you. I'll help you. But y'all got to do right now. Come on, do it. Just do right. Get us some deputies. Keep our people safe. Keep our deputies safe, for crying out loud. See the writing on the walls.
Thank you for your comments. Dee Bryant.
Good evening. I'm Dee Bryant, 309 Parker Drive, Clinton. I agree with the need for additional fundings for the Sheriff Department and the deputies, but I'm here to talk about the detention center. I've worked with Dr. Sessoms in providing jail health care since 2007. It's been our objective from day one to provide efficient and quality care for all the inmates that enter the detention center. We've witnessed a decrease in the detention center staffing, and the shortage has now begun to affect the medical department. I'd like to present a case in point for you. An inmate was admitted to the facility on August the 26th. It's our policy to perform a medical intake screen within 48 hours. However, her screen was not performed until August the 30th because she came in intoxicated and she was withdrawing from heroin and from meth. On her initial screen, she was a very poor historian, but all she could allude to was her drug problem. And she stated she was getting Suboxone for withdrawal from the Wayne Family Medical. However, we requested records and there were none. We did not receive any. On the 10th, she did place in a sick call to be seen for her ear. Dr. Sessoms saw her on the 10th and she was treated for this. He asked to see her again on the 12th for a follow-up evaluation. However, we were told that because of staffing shortages, She couldn't be brought to the medical to be seen. On the 14th, an officer requested us to see her because she was having some difficulties and was still complaining about her ears. Upon her arrival to medical, Dr. Sampson saw that she could hardly walk. They did a blood sugar on her and it was over 700. She did not have a history of being diabetic. She was then transferred to Sampson Regional ER and was diagnosed with diabetic ketoacidosis. She was placed in observation 48 hours there, and from that she was admitted as inpatient status on the 16th, where she remained until the 20th. It was determined at the hospital that she was a new onset diabetic and had some other medical issues. Due to her conditions, a attempt was made by administration to contact her attorney to get her bond reduced for early out, to get her court appearance earlier, and probation was also contacted. However, all attempts to get her released failed. She is currently in women's prison for medical safekeeping due to the critical nature of her illness. This is just one case of medical issues due to shortage in staffing in the detention center. Shortage not only results in the delay of care, but also in the cost for us, for the county. I implore you to help us help you by increasing the staffing in the detention center. Thank you.
Valerie, and I can't read this last name, Valerie. Your turn. Thank you.
My name is Valerie Schode. I'm an outreach minister in Johnston County. I live at 9090 US Highway 701 South in Newton Grove. I was asked by Sheriff Jimmy Thornton to be here tonight. I am in the process, God willing, of hopefully purchasing a church and a piece of property here in your county on Highway 701 in between Newton Grove and Clinton. And after being here tonight and hearing all your citizens of your county speaking, I'm kind of hesitant now because, yeah, this is wow. This is crazy. I'm a wife, I'm a mother of 5 beautiful children, and I'm also a minister as well. But before I became a minister, I was a student of criminal justice. And I'm the first one to admit that I backed down. I left my training, Phi Sigma, straight A student, and I walked away from it when all the officers started getting shot in the very beginning. When I looked my husband in the face and I told him that there was no way that I could pull out of my driveway in that uniform, not knowing whether I would be able to go back home or not. Not knowing that I would live to see the end of the day because of my uniform. Now, I stand above all with the officers of any form, in any state. But because without law enforcement, whew, yeah, we would have total chaos and craziness. We need our officers, we need them alive, we need them to stay alive. We need them to be able to go back home to their families, to their children. Whether they're male, female, it doesn't matter. They need to be protected by their government. And if I'm going to be a part of your county, I would want to see an abundance of officers in this county. I travel Highway 13 to Fayetteville every single day to drive my disabled daughter back and forth to Fayetteville State University. And there have been multiple times that I have had to call Sampson County officers to ask them, was there any way that they could assist me? Because people were going around me on that highway head on with other vehicles at 70+ miles an hour.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
I just hope y'all can realize what you're doing if you don't help these officers.
Eugene Pearsall.
Good evening. I'm Eugene Pearsall. I live at 10422 Faison Highway, Faison, North Carolina. I stand before you tonight, not just as a resident, but as a business owner. I have great concerns about our safety for the community. And I also have concerns as a taxpayer that these concerns that I've heard Jimmy Thornton ask I've been reading Facebook, I've been reading the paper, asking for funds, and it seems to be going ignored. I hear many people saying, oh, you guys just like the people in Raleigh and Washington, D.C., not listen to the voters. Let's not let that come to our county. I also stand before you, the taxpayer resident, and believe that you guys support us, not what you think, it's what we need. I'm asking, I'm begging, I'm pleading with you. These deputies work hard. Mr. Causey, you guys talk about the budget and say that they should be satisfied with what they're getting. But I say here, they need more. Safety has no limits. Also, Mr. Causey, you stated one good thing here. You stated that contingency funds are meant for emergencies, okay? We have an emergency here. And I ask that one of you commissioners make a motion to declare this an emergency so we can fund our police officers. Sampson County is being paid $4,000 less than the Duplin County sheriffs. So we can do this with the emergency funds. Let's declare this an emergency. I ask you now, we could do that. Thank you.
Charlie Hall.
It's Charlie Hale. I stay at 27 Corinth Church Road in Sellenberg. But I'm here for the sheriff's department because me, personally, as a mom, I have 3 kids. My oldest is in middle school. I mean, of course, we need cops, school shootings. There's not enough officers to back them up. But just for me personally, I mean, I'm a mom. I see the news. People get kidnapped everywhere. Everything goes wrong. I could be at home by myself. Somebody could break in. Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, we need our officers. I mean, are we all going to have to start being cops if we only have 4 cops in Sampson County? That's going to be a lot of self-defense cases in courts coming up if we all have to be cops out here to defend ourselves. I'm going to defend mine. I don't shoot a gun. Never shot a gun in my life. But you best believe when it comes to my kids, there's going to be some bullets blazing. Second of all, I don't know if I'm allowed to announce it yet, but we've been working and talking with Sheriff Jimmy Thornton and all the officers coming up. So, and Saturday, November 12th, from 11 to 1, we've already applied for a permit. We're going to be doing a walk for the officers to back the blue, get the community involved, the public involved, get our voices out, whatever we need to do. Just something to show support for our officers. This is a time the community needs to come together to support our officers, and it's going to be. So, with that being said, I hope y'all change your minds. I mean, we need our cops. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Did anyone else want to speak that did not sign up?
Hey, Ruth Cantrell, 235 Gilmore Lane. The 921 meeting was about inaccuracies. Well, I watched it, and there were several inaccuracies in that meeting. There was a meeting moved back last year. It was a special meeting, not the normal monthly commissioners meeting. A lot of deputies showed up, and at the last minute, the location was moved, and none of them were allowed to be there. You could have fixed that by simply acknowledging them. Also, animal control, those deputies were not pulled off the road when the Clear Shelter event started. Those deputies were pulled off the road back at the end of July, 1st of August, to fill court vacancies that were left by retiring officers. So that was an inaccurate statement. They were not pulled off the road for Clear the Shelter. Now, Mr. Causey said that employees of Sampson County had significant salary increases. Well, Mr. Causey, from 2019, 2020 year to 2022, 23 year, you had a $10,836 salary increase, which is $903 a month. That's pretty significant. Ms. Holder had a $18,660 increase, or $1,555 a month. Again, that's significant. Ms. Dillman, $14,256, or $1,188 a month. Significant. A deputy, $5,040, or $420 a month. A detention officer, God bless them, $2,928, or $244 a month. Man, that is significant. That's making a difference. I'm gonna tell you right now. Great job, great job. Since 2014, both the county manager and the assistant county manager have had raises higher than the salary that a current deputy makes, much less a detention officer. But yet many times, it was stated that detention jobs are very tough and not everyone can do that job. Thank you.
Thank you. There was one more gentleman.
Bruce McLam, 787 US 701 Highway, Clinton, North Carolina. I want to tell you about first responders. I am a first responder, and first responders in this county includes fire department, EMS, 911 center, police department, and the sheriff's department. And if you call 911, you better have some trained people to tell you where to go when you have an emergency. When you have an emergency, you don't want a tax collector to be called to go there. You want a sheriff's department or fire department or whoever is required to go there. My main problem is the sheriff's department is not getting their due money. And I feel like y'all are taking all the money from the jail and allocating it somewhere else. If the sheriff's department has to fund that, do that jail, have to man it and do everything, and y'all take all the money and use it somewhere else. It would be like me running an automobile shop, and Friday come, and my 2 mechanics want to get paid, and I said, well, I had to spend the money somewhere else, but I spent it so you can keep a job. You're working for free. That's not right. You need to at least, if that jail, and I don't know how much it brings in, I imagine it brings in millions of dollars, but if that jail brings in $6 million, you need to get a sheriff's department half of it, period. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
My name is David Haney, 2980 Old Warsaw Road. I'm not much of a speaker. I shoot from the hip, and I'll go ahead and tell y'all what I think. I was 24 years, I retired from the fire department in Sampson County. You wouldn't believe this, we had a crack problem. We had meth labs going on in Sampson County and all this, and who come and saved my butt? Mr. Jimmy Thornton did, and the sheriff's department. I come out of that house when it was on fire, it was fixing to blow up. Mr. Jimmy Thornton and a deputy was standing there right there looking at me. Now, I've got a problem, and this is something else. I'm gonna say this, and I ain't gonna say nothing else. If somebody come to your house, and Mr. Jimmy had deputies in Newton Grove and in Roseboro, and say you had one in, say, Spivey's Corner, okay? You live in Clinton. What's the response time of Mr. Jimmy's officers getting to your house? And y'all ain't got no answer for that because you don't know. Well, if it's over 2 or 3 minutes, I'm gonna take care of the problem, and I'm gonna dial my next door neighbor and ask, does he see anybody in the other yard over there, and let him finish it. And Mr. Jimmy, when you come and get me, you don't need no handcuffs. I'll go willingly. But I'm gonna protect my family, and that's the way I look at it. I poured 24 years on the fire department. I'm retired now. I ain't healthy enough to be fighting nobody. That's all I got to say, thank you. And ma'am, you can smile all you want to. I'm sorry. I don't disrespect nobody.
I said thank you. I said thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
one back there.
My name is Gwen Morrison, and I presently live in Duplin County at 575 John Ridge Road. I lived in Sampson County for over 25 years. I have a child that is in law enforcement in Sampson County. And I want to tell you that I know that when a deputy is in Roseboro, a deputy is in Newton Grove, and deputies are down in Garland, when something happens, they cannot get to each other. They cannot get to the call. And the reason that that is because you guys have failed them. You have failed Sampson County. You have failed all of these citizens. I may move back to Sampson County at some point, depends. It really depends. But what I don't understand is how y'all can take raises for yourselves, how y'all can take the money from the jail, how y'all can take the money from wherever it's coming from, the tax coffers, and say that there is not enough. I don't believe that. I just believe that your priorities are screwed. I believe that you do not care, that you are so separated from us, that you are making your own decisions according to what you desire, to what you think you should do, to what you think you should have. Do y'all drive county cars? Maybe you don't, but I'm sure you got a gas expense. But what do we have? We have Sampson County Sheriff's Department. We have Fire and Rescue. We have the dog catchers. They are our people. They are our children. They are our brothers and our sisters. But you guys are so separated from us. You have no compassion for this county, and the fact that people do die of heart attacks, they die of strokes because you can't get people there to help. Because how many times does a deputy get there before rescue does and begin CPRs? Because I know that my daughter has done CPR on so many people. But you don't care. Y'all have nice salaries and nice homes. You live in nice districts, I'm sure. And I know that at least one of you actually doesn't even live in Sampson County, but y'all have a house here, so you use that as your reason to stay here. But that's okay. God is watching. God is watching. And we're praying for our deputies, but y'all don't care. And we know that. And that's what we feel. That's what everybody in this room feels, that you do not care about Sampson County citizens. And I lived here for 25 years, and I love this county. I didn't want to move away. But I had a stroke, and I had to. I had to go live with my daughter. But y'all just don't care. And that's all I got to say. Y'all just live with that. Well, live with these words that you hear. We feel you do not care, that y'all are flush. Y'all got your money. Y'all got your races that you voted for each other. So be it. God is watching.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, that seems to end the public comment period. Thank you all for coming, for your comments. At this time, we have on the schedule closed session. I move that we go into closed session. I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Pause.